All right, we're going to call our meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Before we do the approval of the minutes, I was just going to turn this over to Mr. Lima for an announcement.
I'd like to take a moment of silence for Craig Little Fox Champlin, who passed last week, and he did an awful lot for our town if you go around and look at all the stonework. So at this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence.
All right, thank you, everyone. Our next item is the approval of the minutes. Our first, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Mr. Murray also would like to recognize, would us make an announcement.
Yeah, last week we also lost Dave Arnold. He was the fire marshal for Narragansett, long-term fireman, and I'd like to pay respects to him also. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Our next item is approval of minutes. We have the January 14th, 2019 work session. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion to approve. Motion approved 5-0. Next is the January 22nd, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye. This is the regular minutes? Is that right?
January 22nd, 2019 regular meeting.
Yeah.
Yep. Approved 4-0. Item number 20, approval of the January 22nd, 2019 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Motion approved 3-0. Next, we have recognition of the Narragansett Future Farmers of America achievements at the National FFA Convention. So I wanted to call forward our superintendent, Dr. Cummings. And welcome the members who are here from the Future Farmers.
Thank you for inviting us here today. So as you all know, we have a vibrant and high-level agri-science program at Farmington High School where we draw kids from all over the region. So this fall, our Future Farmers of America chapter and the Rhode Island chapter went out to Indiana to compete in the national competition. And so I'd like to introduce Greg Breen, our advisor, and Meredith Ashworth, our co-advisor, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what they accomplished, and I can only add we are incredibly proud of them.
Thank you. I'd like to have the kids come on up too. So
welcome everybody, come on up.
So each year the National FFA Convention takes place in October. And approximately 65,000 students from all over the United States attend the National Convention. Many of the students that go to the National Convention just go to see what's going on and see all the new ideas in agriculture and different things. Our students always go and they compete. And Meredith and I are very, very proud of that our students are not attending the convention, they're actually part of the convention. And each year we do an item called the Hall of States. And in the Hall of States, it's your opportunity to showcase Rhode Island agriculture, or each state's agriculture. And we always try to come up with a new idea of what to do. And so this year we came up with, we want to promote the #1 industry, which is the nursery landscape industry. And then we did some turf grass, and we always give away Rhody Fresh milk. So we gave away 2,300 little cups of Rhody Fresh coffee milk. So that was a lot of fun. And the kids made a replica of a lighthouse. And in that replica, they said it was a beacon of opportunity for people. And so what was really cool is that is judged. And out of 42 states that had exhibits, we were finished in 3rd place. So we were really proud of that. So it's a great opportunity for the students. It's an excellent opportunity for them to, and actually I have to go back to finishing in 3rd. 1st place was Georgia, and second place was California, so it wasn't too bad that the smallest high school in the smallest state came in third place, so we're really proud of that. But it's an opportunity for the students to get to meet someone from all 50 states, and that's a great opportunity that they'll take with them forever. And they take a great deal of pride in putting together the project. They involve everyone that's in the class, gets the chance to be part of it. And then we have to teaching the students how to put together an exhibit that you build in the classroom, you work on it really, really hard, and then you take it all apart. And you put it in a trailer and you ship it all the way out to Indianapolis, and then you put it all back together again, and it has to be ready when you get out there. So it was a lot of fun doing it with the kids. We had a great time. We also had 2 students that competed nationally in the public speaking competition, and Aliana Zabel and Hannah Conlon. And they both did very, very well. Hannah's event, the maximum number of students would be 50. So it's the #1 student from each state. And the same actually in Aliana's contest as well. They were both bronze medal winners, so they were in the bronze division. So they did a great, there was great representation of Narragansett as well as the state. We just had a wonderful time, and we really appreciate you guys taking this time to thank us. I don't know if Mrs. Asher.
And to recognize you.
No, thank you very much. We also have some members of our chapter who are state officers, and they're here today. If you guys just take a step forward. And they were delegates on the Senate floor for the National Convention. And so some of our students voted on all kinds of things nationally, and we even had one of our students propose a change to the amendments, had to be, elected on the floor, and that amendment won. So that was a really interesting, that's a great opportunity for these kids beyond the competitions. But to be amongst such a large group from the state of Rhode Island, actually, Todd Poulos is one of our state officers, and he's got a nice quick line for you.
So my quick line, as I shared with Mrs. Ashworth earlier, is it's a testament to how good our program is in Narragansett, thanks to all the support we get. There's 650,000 FFA members in the country, and there's about 65 from Narragansett. So that means that our high school is 1 in 10,000. So for our talent pool, with that 1 in 10,000, to get 3rd in the nation for the Hall of States, that's very impressive. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And one last thing. The one other thing is that I've been here, this is my 32nd year, and I never dreamed it would be where it is today, and I'm really, really proud of that. But I'm also really happy that a few years ago a superintendent came to me and said that we're going to open this up to CTE. We're going to go after a CTE program. And so she said, that way there we can have other people come in and they would want to come and be part of your program. And I thought, okay, that's fine, and I didn't really know whether or not anybody would really want to come. But I'm very proud to say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids that are standing up here are out-of-district students that would have never had the opportunity to go do what we did. And I'm really, really proud to be able to share that with them, and I'm really glad that they chose us to be part of our program.
And all 22 that we took would have been here today, but we have a large portion of students with the flu. So that is the only reason they are not in attendance. I would also like to point out that Mr. Murray's stepdaughter competed a couple of years ago in the National Floriculture Competition, which they were also bronze medalist and 1 silver medalist. So he knows firsthand. But thank you again for recognizing our students.
Mr. Breen, first I wanted to recognize the students, and I know this program's grown over the years, and we will take a break just to congratulate everybody, but also Mr. Breen and Mrs. Ashworth have been very instrumental in growing this program since in those 32 years that you mentioned, so, because we can remember the beginnings, right?
Oh,
so,
yes.
So I want to also recognize you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
One tiny thing. While we're here, I would like to take the moment. Nick Godina is one of our students from Jamestown, and he is the first in his family to be going to college, and he's going on an FFA scholarship.
Great. And so we'll just take 2 minutes if anyone wants to congratulate everybody, and we'll resume the meeting, all right? All right, our next item is the consent agenda. Does any council member have anything they want to remove from the consent agenda or discuss? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. All right, new business item number 9 is a motion. Go ahead. Yes.
Could we move 18 up to the first order here?
Is a motion to move item number 18 up to the top of new business. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0.
Okay.
So
Okay.
item number 18 is, before I read item 18, it's a motion to reassess an item that we had 2 weeks ago. So it's essentially a motion to reconsider. So 2 of our council members put this on, but when we have a motion to reconsider, it needs to be put on by somebody who is on the prevailing side under Robert's Rules of Order. So to prevent a misuse of a motion to reconsider, only a member who voted on the prevailing side can move to reconsider. And so this item is out of order, and
Well, Matt, it doesn't say reconsider, it says reassess. That's why that reconsider isn't in there.
But it's essentially a motion to reconsider. That's the goal of it. You know this from the motions in the budget where you were the one who changed your vote on the budget. You're the only one who put the motion forward.
Well, this is a reassess. I'm not trying to change the sale or stop the sale. I'm just reassessing the sale of the Belmont building.
And so I'm on that, on the motion as well. There's actually some content in this motion that are separate action items that are related to the library project, so it's not specific to the sale of it. There's some action that we'd be interested in talking about.
But the motion is a motion to reassess, which is a motion to reconsider, and your original draft of this was to reconsider. It came in 10 minutes before the agenda. It would have been withdrawn from the agenda as a motion to reconsider otherwise, but it came in 10 minutes before the deadline, so we really didn't have an option.
Unfortunately, I have a full-time job, and this is real estate we shouldn't even be talking about in the first place, okay? This is stuff that we shouldn't be going over this in the first place. So it's reassessed. I beg to differ. Maybe we should need to get a ruling from our esteemed council.
I just think you need to be able to read Robert's Rules of Order, Patrick, but if you want to...
There it is, folks.
I took a look at the motion, Patrick, and it really doesn't matter what it's labeled or entitled or titled as. It's clearly a motion to reconsider, and the rules do require that a motion to reconsider be brought by somebody who voted in the affirmative. So you're not the proper party to bring this kind of motion.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, any of you folks on the other end here want to reconsider this?
The motion's out of order. If they have new information to bring forward, if you want to share anything during public comment and open forum, you can go ahead, but the motion is out of order.
Is there a way you can move up public comment to now instead of later?
You can make a motion to do that if you want.
Like to make a motion, move up public forum?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No. Motion failed 2-3.
Guys,
New business, item number 9 is a motion to approve the purchase of one replacement 6-inch fire service meter for Fisherman's Memorial Campground from Stiles Company in the amount of $10,736.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
This comes from the Water Department. Are there any questions for the Water Department? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 10 is a motion to award the bid for general electrical services to 2 bidders, Effluent Electric and Controls, LLC, and EW Audit and Sons, Incorporated, at their quoted bid prices for a 1-year period.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the Engineering Department. Are there any questions for engineering? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 11 is a motion to approve the purchase of the ExecuTime time and attendance system from Tyler Technologies in the amount of $51,123.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from IT. Are there any questions for the IT department?
I have a few questions for Dan. So I looked through some of the notes related to this. I think it definitely makes sense looking into a system like this. Could you give some background on the process and if you looked at any other services or received any other bids?
We did not bid this. We purchased through Tyler, who also we purchased our Munis system from. This system is an add-on to our payroll system, so it allows a better integration with Munis payroll than we would have gotten anywhere else. Right down to the point of payroll, talking to leave, seeing that on a personal cell phone and or the time clock. It's quite extensive integration.
Okay, and so we don't have so since it's an add-on, there's no current comparable service that we use?
No, right now we have 3 separate systems doing time and attendance at 10 locations, and another 2 systems that this will also encompass doing scheduling at public safety. So they're all completely dissimilar. This will bring everything into one unit and be able to talk to our payroll system and do availability of mobile tracking and stuff like that for overtime for public safety.
Okay, and then is this more of like a convenient, it's going to make it easier, obviously, it's more convenient. Do you foresee that it's actually going to save money?
If all goes to plan, this will actually save our clerks doing payroll and time entry some time, because right now public safety, both sides, and Public Works, Parks and Rec are all doing manual time entry from their dissimilar time clock systems into Munis. So they'll be able to save all of that time, as well as integrate leave into this newer time and attendance system, so they can actually get that pre-done before the time swipe is done. So.
Okay, and then I guess my last question. I know there's an annual fee.
Yes.
And it looks like it's itemized, but it adds up to about
$31,000
per year. Yep. And then there's a one-time, like a setup fee as well?
Correct. That includes the time clocks for 10 or 11 locations and the setup fees.
Okay. So once we pay for that setup fee, we're using that system.
Correct.
Would you say that because of that initial investment, it would probably make sense to continue using them after the 3rd year and extend?
I would, yes. Yep.
And is there any contractual wording that would lock?
No.
So
after the end of the 3rd year, we could move on to something else if we wanted to.
Okay, but they could also raise the pricing, obviously.
Oh, yeah. There's always that possibility. Yep.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for Dan? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 12 is a motion to approve the contract for water and wastewater enterprise funds financial analysis with Pioneer Consulting Group Incorporated, an amount not to exceed $12,500.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from Jeff. Are there any questions for Jeff? Is Jeff here? No, sorry. Are there any questions for the town manager? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 13 is a motion to discuss the placement of a dock on private property located at 10 Seacrest Drive, which is adjacent to a town-owned right-of-way.
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion. So this item comes to us from the Planning Department. I'm going to have Mr. DeLuca come forward and describe this. This is about a discussion of a ramp to be built in an area near a public right-of-way. So we need to talk about that.
That's right. That's right, Mr. President. The application comes to us as a referral from the Coastal Resource Management Council staff. The reason it comes to us is because the town is an abutting property owner to the dock that's been requested. The applicant is requesting a 67-foot long fixed timber pier with a 20-foot ramp and an 18-foot float. The site is located here on Seacrest Drive. That's the property. This is the waterfront out in front that the individual is interested in placing his dock. This is a plan that is that was submitted to the Coastal Council. The property property line. This is the northern property line on the right-hand side of the screen. The southern property line is on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see trying to hold this a little steady. You can see the dock and the float. One of the concerns, the staff of my department, as well as engineering and harbor master, have gotten together and discussed this, and we raised some concerns because we all know, if you've been down there, and I don't have actual photos, but there are these things, these 3 lines out here are the 3 easternmost of 17 outhauls. Outhauls are those docking mechanisms, for lack of a better term, that use a pulley system. There's a post in the water and a pulley and rope that goes between them, and they're usually used for very small boats on the order of 10 to 15 feet long. And while they're not being used, the boats are out here near the end in the water. When the user wants to use it, they pull them in, get in it, unclip it, and take off. We have, the town owns the right-of-way right here, and that right-of-way is an actual ramp.
Mike, is your laser, I can't see your laser actually, Lynn.
Yeah, my battery's a little low,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the ramp is right here on the left-hand side, and it's used quite often and for kayaks, canoes, small flat bottom boats, that kind of thing, and some people who actually swim in that area. So with the dock not here, there's a big open area for boats to get in and out and get around that outhaul. But if the dock were to be put here, the space between the end of this outhaul and the float would be about 28 feet. So we raised concern about that. Is that sufficient space to continue to use the ramp for its purposes, or launching area for small boats? There are no large boats that get launched in that area. There's not nearly enough water there for large boats to be launched, just small stuff. So we actually had a meeting with the applicant. The staff suggested a couple of changes, such as making the float a little bit shorter. It's an 18-foot float, proposed 18-foot float, and potentially reducing the length of that and or moving the float to the north adjacent to this line here, the blue line, which is also an extension of the property line. So the applicant was not very favorable to that. What we're here to do tonight is to decide how we would like to respond to it. As a budding property owner, you have the right, the town has the right, to request a public hearing on the matter with the Coastal Council. Not a public hearing here, with the Coastal Resource Management Council. We don't necessarily have to file an objection per se, but if we feel as though there's a need for more public input on that matter, it may be incumbent upon the town to request that. I posed this question to Town Manager Manny a month ago, and he felt as though this was the kind of thing that needed your input. So that's where we are at the moment. I know the applicant is here with his attorney, Bob Donnelly. I believe they would like to speak on the matter. Also, before I relinquish the podium, I want to make note that the harbor master raised questions, associated questions about potential impact on the mooring field, which is right out in front of this. We do have regulations in the town harbor management plan requiring at least 50 feet of space between docks and moorings, and he wasn't sure that that 50-foot setback would be maintained, as it's not shown on the site plan. He was also concerned about if the moorings had to be moved temporarily for construction or permanently, that there would be a cost incurred by that, and who would take on that cost. So passing that along on behalf of Kevin Connors, our harbor master. With that, I would...
Yeah, Mike.
Yes.
Matt, I'm going to ask him to...
Go ahead, yeah.
Can you flip back to that previous map overlay?
Whoops, sorry.
Not that one. That one.
Yes.
Okay. Those are other similar docks, correct?
Well, yeah. Yeah, next door neighbor here.
And the reason this one's so longer because he's got that little cove that he has to ford to get out there, right?
Yes.
Because you got to be 18 feet of water at mean low.
How much?
18 feet. Don't you have to be 18 feet of water?
Where this dock is located.
Where the dock ends, it has to be in so much water?
There really is only about 2 feet of water.
All the way at the end?
Yes.
Really? The 2 feet?
Come on.
That don't sound right. I don't.
Yeah, there's very little water out here, so he will be restricted as to the size of the boat.
But there's similar docks right there.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, okay.
So I will
No, it's 18
relinquish
inches.
to the
18
applicant.
inches.
So the bottom line is most people have the right when they're on the water, they're on the ocean or a river to wharve out and put out a dock to
That is
get
true.
access to the water. It's a part of the public trust doctrine. But in this case, the concern is that there's a boat ramp from the town that the harbor masters mentioned. It highlighted for us, and so the two will be in the way. There's going to be that's the issue that we need to grapple with. And
That's right.
The time for us to say something informally in writing it looks like the deadline was extended to February 15th.
Exactly. Thank you
It's
for
not a
reminding
lot
me of
of
that.
time if we're going to give instruction to our town staff to do something. So
We could do nothing, or we could make a comment about concerns, or we could request a hearing, or even enter an objection. It really is your call to make.
right, so that's something we all want to be thinking about as this goes on.
And I stand corrected, it's 18 inches. At the end of that dock, it's going to be 18 inches deep.
And I believe they have that much water.
Yeah. Not 18.
All right, if the applicant is here, the homeowner, they want to talk to this.
Thank you, Mr. Mannix.
How are you?
May I approach and give you guys?
More papers? Yeah, look at this.
Thank you, members of the council. Mike is partly right. The only reason this is here, as you can see by the shape of the lot, is somewhat triangular. If you had a square lot and your dock went straight out, you need to keep the dock so many feet from the extended property line going into the water. Well, obviously here the property line is coming to a point, so he has a very narrow place where you can actually put a dock. You know, if you had 100 feet of frontage on the pond, you could put it right in the middle and you'd never come close to your neighbors. The only reason it's here is because it's within 25 feet of the property extension on the right and the property extension on the left. It's hard to see, but at the end of the pier, at the end of the float there, it's 6.5 feet towards the property line of the town, 6.3 feet to the property line of the neighboring abutter. Mike indicates it's a town right-of-way. I don't know that for sure. I'm taking his word for it. It shows on if you look at the first document on there, it shows as a right-of-way on the old Great Island subdivision. It doesn't show as a road, it shows as a right-of-way. Usually a right-of-way in a plat is for the members of the plat, the people who own the property in the plat. But we're here anyway, so we'll discuss it. So the only reason you were given notice is because you were within 25 feet of the dock. So when he went to his neighbor on the right, the neighbor on the right said, yep, that's fine, I don't have a problem with it, you can put it there. Had to come to the town. Obviously, that's when Mike and the harbor master got together and came up with the issues that they have. So it's not so much that it's here because there's a ramp there. There actually isn't a ramp there. If you look at some of the pictures that are in your folder there, there's asphalt and gravel that goes down towards the water. When you get towards the water, it's then rocks, stones, boulders before you get to the water. So you could not take a truck, you could not back a big boat into that area. Once you get into the water, it's 6 inches, 18 inches, 2 feet deep, so you could never drop a boat in there. The only kind of boats that can get in there are handheld. It's a kayak, sunfish, those little pontoon boats, or a rowboat, something like that. Those are the only kind of boats that can actually get in there. Obviously, he's a property owner. He has the right to put a dock off his property. The only agency that deals with that is CRMC. It's not particularly you guys. You don't have the right one way or the other to say whether somebody should have a dock. It's CRMC that gets to decide that. The reason that Mike and the harbor master have a problem is the 28 feet pinch point there from the end of the float to the first outhaul. When I met with Mike and Kevin, and they were trying to figure out a way, could we move it closer to the property line on the right? CRMC said, no, we can't go any further over there because we only have 6 feet to the property line. Shorten the float, you bring the float in, you're in a foot of water. Right. It couldn't support a boat. It's 18 inches to 2 feet of water towards the end of the float. Actually, if you look, just off to the left end of the float there's a 2 with parentheses around it. That's the depth.
Right.
So the fact that it's 28 feet wide, you're only putting in kayaks, sunfishes, canoes, etc., and it's only 2 feet deep at the pinch point. Right. So it's not like you're getting in a motorboat back at the ramp and trying to figure your way out to get in between the pinch point. You're walking whatever you have out past the pinch point. So even though it's 28 feet, you've got plenty of room to walk a canoe, walk a kayak, walk a sunfish, whatever you need to get past the 28-foot pinch point out there.
Mr. Donnelly, we're not going to be able to wrap this up before 8 o'clock, so we're going to have a minute. I'm going to call the steno up for the public hearing. Okay. So take about 30 seconds or a minute to wrap up this portion, and then you'll come back.
Then we'll pick it up again.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're familiar.
Yeah. I knew it was going to happen. So.
So that item, as he was describing, is the right to wharf out, but in some places, some people don't wharf out because they could be at the top of a cliff or something that's not practical. But this is obviously a different situation. So I'm going to call the stenographer up for the public hearing.
Because he's on his way out. Just like the game yesterday. Everybody's punting. They're on board with it. Let's get it done.
All right, public hearing decisions at 8 p.m. First, a continuation of a public hearing for text revisions of the zoning ordinance of the town of Narragansett at sections 2.2, definitions, 4.7, special flood hazard overlay district, and 6.4, table of use code regulations to address changes made by passage of H7741, substitute A, which amended the height limits for buildings under Rhode Island General Law, section 45-24-31. Motion to continue the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is a continuation of a hearing that we had at a special public hearing about a week ago, and it was on the issue of this legislation that is going to allow people to start building from a base flood elevation much higher than at ground level. And so the concern is that structures are going to go a lot higher than 35 feet. So there's a lot of discussion last week about this. The council weighed in with their opinions. The staff had a recommendation. I'm going to call Jill Sable from the planning department up to just summarize where we are based on last week. And before she goes, this is a very serious issue facing the town, and we need to address it before March 1st because that's when the legislation takes effect, and then these structures could start to get approved.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. Again, Jill Sabo with the Planning Department. This is a continuation of that public hearing that started a week ago on January 28th, addressing the state law change, which essentially redefined where the building measurement begins. It begins at the base flood elevation or the storm tools design elevation. At that public hearing, the council directed staff to make certain changes, and I wanted to go through those changes this evening. You should each have a copy of something that looks like this, proposed ordinance changes. So very briefly, we had proposed changes in 3 sections. Section 2.2, which is definitions. There were no changes to that. Section 4.7, which is the special flood hazard area overlay district. There are no changes. And then section 6.4, tables and associated text. There are changes that council directed staff to make. So specifically under the table for residential maximum height, the town council asked the staff to expand the table, to expand it in both directions, starting at 1 foot and going all the way to the minimum height of a single story. And council asked staff to ask the building official what that minimum height is. After some calculations and some discussion, the building official determined that the minimum height for a 1-story structure would be 15 feet. So we expanded that table. What you're going to see there, everything in a white text is new. We changed the language to for the first column, which says height to the BFE SDE from the average grade. And then we brought the table out so you can see with a 1 foot at a base flood elevation, it's a 34-foot structure and so on. And then at the other end, we expanded it out until it reached 15 feet. The height of a single story as calculated allows a 612 pitch. And while the ordinance says the minimum pitch for a 35-foot roof is 412, we wanted to give the applicant or future applicants some wiggle room, that they wouldn't be forced to do the minimum. They could do a steeper pitch if they'd like. And that's based on an 8-foot ceiling at fit. So the math works out to 15 feet. The second page, again, council directed staff to expand the table for commercial and in height. And we did that. So we expanded it in both directions. Instead of going 0 to 5 as 1, we expanded out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We added that additional clarification language for the BFE and SDE, and then we expanded it on the other end all the way to 20. Staff also, we wanted to clarify the in height because inns have a different height limitation, and they also have standards. So without getting into what the standards are, the in height maximum is 40 feet. So you will see some clarification in that on in heights. And then the last page is the chart. So as you recall, last week I showed you a chart of what that looked like with what we had presented at the time. And this revised chart is what you directed staff to do. So it essentially caps the height. So we don't change where the measurement begins, but we change where the measurement ends. And the measurement will end for structures at varying depending on what the BFE is, but it always ends at 35 feet.
Great, so thank you. And if there's any questions from the council following up from last week. All right, so we can take this continuation of a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify regarding this change? Wow. All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. The item for that first reading of that ordinance is going to be item number 16 on our agenda when that comes up. So our next item is a motion to accept, receive, and place on file the recommendation from the Planning Board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. The next is a motion to schedule a public hearing and refer to the Planning Board the issue of amending Narragansett zoning ordinances with regard to accessory structures in light of the Rhode Island General Assembly's passage of H7741 Substitute A, which amended height limits for buildings under Rhode Island General Laws, Section 45-24-31.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This is simply a motion to schedule a public hearing. The first available date, I believe, is March 18th. Is that correct? Okay, that'd be March 18th at 8 p.m. And this issue of accessory structures came up during our hearing last week, so that's why this is on. So, all in favor of scheduling this for March 18th at 8 p.m.?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next is a public hearing to consider rezoning 3 properties to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map.
So moved.
Second.
To motion to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. I'm going to ask Mr. DeLuca from the Planning Department to come forward regarding these 3 properties.
My apology for the delay. I should have had that all teed up. So tonight, we're holding a public hearing on 3 properties that the town is sponsoring the zone change for that are directly related to the approval of the Town Comprehensive Plan back in September of 2017, and very importantly, the land use map that goes along with the comprehensive plan. So what I'm showing you here in the first slide is an outtake of the chart that was in the land use chapter of the plan. It identifies 4 parcels making up 4 lots rather that make up 3 parcels of the 10 that were designated for rezones. We took these 3 parcels first because first of all, they're all commercial lots and they're already developed and they already have businesses on them. So the first one there, plat, the way you read this is the first column is Plat NH Lot 300A, and the site, as we all know, is known as Kingston Pizza. Anyone who's been in Bonnet Shores has been to Kingston Pizza. Directly next door to that is Plat NR Lot 1124. That's the Bonnet Liquors. Both of those sites are zoned currently residential. Interestingly, they're zoned different residential designations, R40 and R10 respectively. Wow. The latter 2 are Plat O107 and O108. They're side by side. They're owned in common, and they make up the property that is known as South County Medical Association. So now I'm going to go over them. This is an outtake from our land use map, and Ms. Sabo is probably cringing looking at it because I took it out of the program. She could do a much better job with it and make it look a lot better, but we had to put this together fairly quick. Just to give you an idea, this is the land use map from the comp plan. Red stands for commercial, brown and yellow stand for residential. So in the land use map, when we approved the comp plan, we said this area that's in red should be commercial business. To give you an idea, this point right here at the top of the slide is the intersection of Bonnet Shores Road and Boston Neck Road. So the gas station is right here. And right down here are the liquor store, Bonnet Liquors, and Kingston Pizza. So the council agreed with the planning board at that time that those 2 sites should be designated commercial since we know they've been commercial for so long. When you move to the current zoning map, you see that the property across the street is zoned business. That's the gray, BB. But here, the liquor store and here, the pizza place are both zoned residential. So it made sense to say, this is one of those cases where you call a horse a horse. It's been commercial for so long, there's no real reason why these properties should be residential zoned. And we agreed when we wrote the comprehensive plan that they should be designated commercial. Under the state law, under the Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Act of 1988, we are required to make certain that our zoning matches our comprehensive plan land use. So therefore, this property here should be rezoned BB, as should that one. Moving along. This is the land use map, and again, kind of fuzzy outtake from our comp plan of the Rotary. And the big medical center is on these 2 parcels, and the smaller medical center, South County Medical Association, is on these 2 parcels here. Again, in the comprehensive plan at the land use map, we indicated that we wanted those lots all to be designated red, commercial. But here's our current current zoning map, excuse me. And as you can see, the bigger medical center is zoned BA, business. but the smaller medical center is zoned R10 residential. So it makes sense to rezone this to BA business so that it can, first of all, the zoning matches the land use, and also the property owner will not have to come to the zoning board for every little change they might want to do. If we at least have the right zoning on the property, if the property is zoned according to what it should be, what it's built out as and what we've accepted, then when and if they ever wanted to do a modest amendment, a modest expansion, or, very, basic changes to the buildings, they wouldn't have to go to the zoning board for use variance. So it makes sense that these 3 parcels that we've identified should be rezoned from residential zoning to business zoning. And with that, I will open it to questions.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Questions?
I have no questions, but Mike, I know we're going into budget season pretty soon. Buy yourself a new battery. I'll make sure that it gets through, okay?
I've got 2 more of these on my desk that are better than this one. I apologize.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to any of these items? Yes.
Hello.
Please state your name and address.
Certainly. My name is Daphne Wales, and I own the property next to Kingston Pizza, 5 Hogan's Ave, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
And would you please raise your right hand?
Certainly.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So I'm all in favor of expanded business, and it makes sense to me. I do have a couple of concerns that I want to put out there for everybody. And there's 3 of them. The first is that I understand that if there's a business next to a residential property, that there's certain requirements for screening, for the dumpster, right? The placement of the dumpster. So I don't want to get sidetracked. I'm a little nervous. So let me let me start with one of my concerns, which is there's a dumpster there, right? And it's behind the property. I feel that, number one, it should have a fence, and I think in some of the zoning or requirements that's established, there's no fence around it, so the waste blows into my property and down the street, and is also an attraction for rodents. I'd like to have I would prefer that the dumpster is up, as Bonnet Liquors has it, up on the other side of, towards the main road, and that it has a fence around it. The other concern I have is that, especially if there's going to be increased use and/or expansion of the property, which under the new regulations I believe would be feasible, that the trucks for the delivery, they come down and they block that private road. It's not a commercial road. It's not for commercial use. So I can't tell you how many times residents have come down and there's delivery trucks blocking the road. God forbid 911 was called. In addition to the fact that it's a private road, and each of us on that road are responsible for maintaining the section in front of our property. And it's really in bad shape in front of the Kingston Pizza property. And what happens with the big trucks is sometimes in the winter they get stuck and they have to, it's quite entertaining. They slide down and they can't get back up the road. So the whole road gets chewed up as well. It's just not made for big vehicles. And I believe it shouldn't be blocking our use of the private road.
Thank you.
Those are my concerns.
Thank you. What I'll do is, if you could give your information to the town clerk, I don't think we can legislate a remedy for you tonight necessarily, but we could maybe come back and talk to you. I'm going to have the town clerk take your contact information.
Okay, and so I have a question relevant to that.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, please.
Do we have any types of ordinances around dumpsters? I know that Tony's not here, but Mike, we do? Could you?
Stay. It's okay. Thanks. We can share. Anytime that there's a commercial development built or expanded in town, they have to comply with all of our site plan requirements. And one of them is that the dumpster should be enclosed with a fence and a gate, and also that, as Ms. Wales mentioned, that when you have a commercial property juxtaposed next to a residential property, that the area at the property line should be buffered with proper vegetative and or fencing to ensure that there's at least some softening of that break there. Some of the concerns Ms. Wales noted are obviously operational and could be enforcement related as opposed to legislative. But certainly if the site was not built in accordance with the site plan, there could be a violation. I don't know about that. Or it's entirely possible, since we all know the pizza place has been there for so long, that there was no regulation in place at the time that they built. So
Mike, by moving from residential to commercial, it will actually solve many of the problems that she's talking about for the dumpster?
It codifies the regulations that are necessary to be met.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Al. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Albert Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
Would you please raise your right hand?
02882.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. This is actually a question for Mike. I actually have a property at 24 Bonnet.
Al, if you can direct to me, and then we'll bring Mike
I
up.
have a property at 24 Bonneview Drive, and behind the property, it's commercial. It's the strip mall. Win Hames owns that. And there have been dumpsters in the back there, and they haven't been, some of them have not been enclosed, and also in regards to buffering. And I was just wondering, the stipulations which you made, is that just going to be exclusively for this woman's, or is this for any location where they have commercial, residential as well? And if that's the case, I don't know if you or someone from the engineering department could just take a look at that and just make sure that it's in compliance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, to answer Mr. Alba's question, the regulations I just referred to are required for all commercial developments, not just this particular site. And if there are any violations, certainly it wouldn't be the engineering department or community development, it would be the building official would go out and do an inspection. So I can pass along Mr. Alba's concerns to the building official.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. So in terms of putting this on for an agenda item going forward for a first reading of an ordinance, does anyone on the council want to make a motion regarding the recommendation for these three properties?
Sure. I recommend that we follow the zoning change recommended by the staff and change from residential to commercial.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, so then we will be looking to have that on for our next agenda for a first reading. The town clerk will prepare that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next is a motion to accept, receive, and place on file the recommendation from the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, so that concludes our public hearings for this evening. And we are going to resume item number 13, which is a motion to discuss the placement of a dock on private property located at 10 Seacrest Drive, which is adjacent to a town-owned right-of-way. So, Mr. Donnelly, if you can try to pick up where you left off.
Thank you. I'll try.
Thank you.
As I was saying before, the reason it's in front of you, it's not because the town owns the property. It's not because there's a ramp there. If any of you own the property, they would have come to you because you were the neighboring property owner. It just happens to possibly be a town right-of-way. Again, Mike was indicating the outhalls to the left there. I know there's a picture in the package that I gave you showing, there's a picture, I think it's the last picture I put in there. It's from the property, Mr. Santa Barbara's property, looking towards the outhalls. Actually, before I get there, Mike was indicating this dock being near the mooring fields. If you went back and looked at the overhead, the docks to the right of this go much further out into the pond than this one's going to. So if anybody's closer to the mooring field, it's going to be those two docks, not this dock here, because this is inside the cove. And as you can see the outhalls there. That's only showing. It's hard to see. There's probably poles there without lines on them. Mike indicated there's 17 poles, which is, we don't have a problem with them. I mean, they're part of what's creating the pinch point of the 28 feet. We spoke with Kevin Connors. I mean, Kevin's obviously, he maintains, not that he maintains the moorings, he maintains the registration of the moorings. They know who has a mooring in the town of Narragansett. The town has no idea who has those outhalls. I'm assuming it's people from Great Island. I'm assuming people aren't coming from Pawtucket to put their boat there. I'm assuming it's people who live on the island and they use those. And the Mike and Kevin's concern with the 28-foot pinch point, there are 17 of those outhalls, probably, I mean, Rick, you'd know better than me, 5, 6, 7 feet apart with 15-foot boats on them. Yet we're talking about a 28-foot wide point that's going to have kayaks, canoes, sunfishes going through it, but those 15 to 17, 18-foot boats that are 5 and 6 feet apart have no problem getting in and out of their outhalls. So it's a little slightly disingenuous that 28 feet is not enough, whereas those are 5 feet away from each other, and the people there don't seem to have problems with them. It appears that they probably are self-regulated. Whoever has their boats on there, they don't all, you're not going to have all 17 boats out at the end of the outhaul. When you look at it some years when there's an aerial photograph that you can see where it's during the summer, the boats are all, there's one here, the next one's here, the next one's there, so that they take care of themselves. Again, they must just self-regulate themselves. So the only reason that we're here, again, as you're the neighbor, we already had approval from the neighbor next door, and as you can see, this is really the only place on Mr. Santa Barbara's property where you can put the dock. You can't get it anywhere else. That gets it to 18 inches to 2 feet of water. Nowhere else can you get it to 18 inches, 2 feet of water to be able to handle a 15, 16-foot boat that's going to go on his float. So that's the only place we can put it. We're just looking to you as the neighbor to say, instead of having a public hearing with CRMC is going to go through everything they have to go through for this dock. They don't appear to have a problem with what's been designed so far. But we're just asking the town to be the neighbor that says, we don't have a problem with this, as opposed to going through public hearings and everything else at CRMC. It's just that where it's placed is the only place we can place it. Again, when you look at it, anybody that's going to bring any kind of boat there can walk it out past where that 28-foot pinch point is, because it's only 2 feet deep. So we're just asking you as the town council, as the neighbor, to say, yes, we're fine with them going forward at CRMC, and we're okay. You're not approving a dock because that's not your function, but you're just okay with them going to CRMC and having CRMC deal with it and get the approvals there. That's all we're asking for.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this topic?
I got one question.
Mr. President, I would be remiss if I didn't add a couple more comments before you open it to the public. And the first thing I wanted to say is that I've received a few phone calls today from property owners who live in the neighborhood, and I believe there's some property owners who live in the neighborhood here in the audience who'd like to speak on the matter. So I'd ask that you indulge them. And I want you to know that I did say to the people who called me today that while I wouldn't represent their concerns, I told them that I would let you all know that I received their comments and their concerns, and I wanted to pass along that general impression. I also just wanted to conclude by saying, as far as the staff goes, we're not specifically opposed to the dock, but we are uncertain that it should be permitted as it was shown in the design, and that, you know, the suggestions that we had made for changes, while Mr. Donnelly has explained why he believes that they can't be changed. CRMC doesn't want the dock to move any closer to that northern property line, and that for some reason maybe the float shouldn't be made any smaller. We still believe that these are points that maybe would be relevant and important enough for the council to suggest that there be a hearing held, and at that point, more in-depth discussion could take place. So I would leave you with that and allow you to hear.
Mike, I have one question. How close are you to that northern dock?
How close is the proposed dock to the dock?
Proposed dock to the northern dock.
I haven't measured that myself.
Is there any way you can put the dock on that overlay? This day and age? Come on
Actually, you know, I have a draft of that in the file, but it's a hard copy. I
Right,
did
right.
not do the measurement from one to the other. It's a pretty substantial distance.
Yeah.
Not 20 feet or anything.
No, it's
more on the
definitely
order
more
of
than 28 feet.
78,
Yeah.
75 to 100 feet.
Yeah, 28 feet's a lot of
Mike,
space.
Before, I want the council members to weigh in before we go to the public. I just remember we are an abutter here, right? We're not
That's
the
right.
approving body, so
That's
we
right.
have different options, and we can go through some of those. But I do want to hear what the council members have to say, and then we're going to look to the public as well. So go ahead, Ms. Lawler.
I actually wanted to ask Mike a question. Has the Harbor Commission expressed their view on this?
They have not expressed an official view on it. The Harbor Commission chair was brought into the discussion, and he deferred to the harbor master.
Okay.
Just to point out, Patrick, that, as I said, the dock and the float is 6.5 feet
Right.
in from the property line. So, I mean, the yellow line is probably not correct where the property line is.
Yep.
So these overlays are never quite right.
Sure.
But at least it's 6 feet inside where the property line is. So, I mean,
Right.
it's probably, the distance from the proposed dock to the middle dock looks like it's probably about the same as from the middle dock to the upper dock.
Right, right. Yep.
We have, the harbor master did weigh in a kind of informal capacity to both the planning department and the town manager. So in terms of our options, before we kind of go forward, we can formulate that in a more formal way, that letter, and that could come from the town staff. We could refer it to the Harbor Management Commission, but I don't know if that would be ready by February 15th. I highly doubt it. We can request a public hearing, as Mr. DeLuca has suggested, or we could do nothing, as Mr. Donnelly has suggested. So that being said, any other council members have anything they want to say here?
No, I'm good with this. I don't have a problem with this.
All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Yes, sir, come forward.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Mayer, and I have an abutting property to the right-of-way, and it pains me because
Please speak in the microphone, sir.
It pains me because I like Paul to speak against it, but I have a sailboat, which you can see, which I do launch on the right-of-way, and what happens is when you sail in, it's a 17-foot sailboat, and this would happen with a sunfish too, there's a wind shadow from the land, and it's very difficult to navigate in or out of that space. And when you contract it to 28 feet, it's going to be virtually impossible to go in and out. And the only other comment is people do launch 15-foot Boston whalers on the right-of-way and pull their boats out on the right-of-way. So that's would be my concern. And you can see, I'll just walk over here. This is a 17-foot boat here. So it gives you a little perspective right in here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Come forward.
Hi there. My name is Michael Sun. I live on 112 Conch. May I approach and give you these?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. So, sorry about the quality of the printouts as well as my voice, dealing with what I guess a lot of the students were dealing with. What I've just shared with you and what I've emailed you and the town council earlier today. Well, what I emailed the town council members just probably about 2 hours ago, as well as the town council ID, were a number of photos that I took today. Now, Councilman Murray, you asked specifically, is there an overlay, right? What I did was I took the scale drawing from the proposal that was submitted.
That's exactly what I'm looking
and overlaid it.
Yep.
So what you will see in that, when we walked this today, the drawing that's shown, or the picture that's shown, was taken at 1:15. So this is about an hour before low tide, okay? Now, that ice patch that you see, that actually was above, right? So you could walk on that ice. So where their dock would, proposed dock would come out, granted, there's 28 feet between that and the entrance of the next stringer, but that dock is useless at low tide. So my concern is that in order to have a dock that is useful, if you go to page 4, and you look and you see, again, an angled shot of the other surrounding docks, you'll see how far they have to come out into the water in order for them to maintain a boat, right? And it's that 18 inches plus. So on slide 4, what you'd see is in order for a deep water dock from 10 Seacrest to be useful at all, it would have to extend to where that square is, right? So that basically shows you, in combination with the approximate town right-of-way, the challenge that you'd have with having a deep water dock. Now, on slide 5, what I've done is I said, okay, look, let's pretend they were granted the ability to put in a deep water dock. How far would it actually have to go? So slide 5 is actually the image of where that dock would have to go in order to be a deep water dock. So in summary, I think despite the 19-foot property setback variance that they received as part of their proposal, based on the scale drawing that's overlaid on the picture that was taken today, an hour before low tide, so tide still had more to go, that dock would be sitting on land. So again, the concern here is that if that dock is going to be useful, it's going to be extended, which then really pinches the area between the proposed dock and that right-of-way. This is the most frequently used piece of public property on Great Island. I mean,
Mike, can you go back one again?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if you take that ice away, you can see it deepens deeper in that cove.
Yes.
About where that ice is, correct?
It does.
All right, so wouldn't that suffice to where they're going to put it and kind of go in concert of what they're talking about? Sorry to take your job there, Bob, but
yeah, no, where the dock is, again, it's and again, I apologize to the community for not being able to show these pictures. As I said, I've emailed them and I'm happy to share them. You could have a dock, absolutely, but then it really impacts. I don't believe that 28 feet is enough for it to be useful as a dock. I'm not proposing he not have a dock. I want him to enjoy it as much as I enjoy the property. Right. But I do think it's worth the town having a public hearing, having a discussion, and then doing a more in-depth study.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bob Crook. I live on Starfish Drive and have a house just a few houses down the road there on Starfish Drive. I have a boat on a...
Could you speak in the mic, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a boat on the mooring out there, so I have also a boat on the stringer there. Taking a look at 28 feet, I mean, that sounds like it's a pretty generous allowance. However, if you go, as was pointed out, as the doctor pointed out, that boat over there is along the right-of-way is a 17-foot boat. So multiply that by a little less than 2. And that's what you're talking about in terms of the clearance between the easternmost post and the end of the dock. Also, that 28-foot clearance does not include the dimensions of a boat that would be alongside that dock. So it's not really 28 feet after all. The next point is that that area is often used to reinforce what someone said earlier by 14-foot and even slightly larger power boats. So it's not just, but it does include kayaks, of course, and smaller boats, but there are somewhat larger boats that use them. And even once in a while, I find it necessary and useful to bring my 17-foot center console boat in and close to the shore for cleaning the bottom and other purposes. So there are reasons why people bring their boats in through that area. And then lastly, that is an area, this whole right-of-way here is an area which many, many people use for swimming during the summer months, and it's an excellent place for, especially for families with young children. And I think it would be kind of interesting to have the close association there between where these families are using the boat for recreational, using the area for recreational purposes, and a dock. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, so does the council, based on what we've heard?
If I might, Matt.
Sure.
The dock that's proposed is the dock that's proposed. Mr. San said, no, you can't do that. You got to extend it out to deep water. There's no deep water there. There is no deep water, period. This is not a deep water dock. The dock design engineer is here. She's the engineer. She's the one who's been working with CRMC for months on this thing. The dock that's proposed is the dock.
This is right. This is about whether we want to communicate to CRMC or
right. No, but he indicated this can't be
I
the
know,
dock.
right, but we're not right. But we're not right. We're not.
No, I indicate that,
right.
but it's just like people like to come up and say things, and that everybody uses it for a beach, but there's 17 boats on stringers, and they don't seem to have any problem getting them off there, not running over kids in the water, and they're able to get those out when they're 5 and 6 feet apart, but you can't get a boat out because it's 28 feet. So it's slightly disingenuous.
Right, so any public hearing that would take place or anything, it's not our public hearing. I think the council understands that, and we're not going to be modifying. It's just, are we going to say something formally to CRMC or not? Right. So, and so what are council members thinking about that? Mr. Pugh.
I would be for recommendation for a public hearing.
Mr. Murray.
That'd be a CMRC, right?
We would ask the town planning department, community development, to ask for a public hearing.
It's tight in there. Yeah, I guess one public hearing won't hurt anybody.
All right, Ms. Lawler.
I agree with public hearing.
Mr. Lima.
I'm not opposed to the public hearing, but I would just want people to realize, so this stringer configuration that you're not seeing up there right now became very popular in the early days of boating, not only on Salt Pond, but in other areas. And what I'm seeing here is somebody, again, who bought a piece of property and would like to have a dock. Anybody that lives on the water would love to have a dock. And when I look at this, I see there's nothing stopping this gentleman from also putting a stringer configuration in if he chose to, and I don't know who would stop him or who stops anybody that does this. So I'm not opposed to the public hearing, but I'm hoping that we can work on something that allows this gentleman at least to use the rights that he has to be able to boat or put a boat in his backyard, whether it be a dock, I'm only one vote, whether it be a dock or a stringer configuration. Because even if you put a stringer configuration here, you're going to end up with the same thing. I'm looking at these other stringer configurations, and one actually does cross that public right-of-way. So, again, public hearing's fine. I hope we can work it out and maybe resolve how we can do this for this gentleman. Thank you.
All right, so I'll be looking for a motion to instruct town staff to request a public hearing at CRMC regarding the placement of a dock at 10 Seacrest Drive.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Item number 14 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning for a text revision of Section 6.1, Table of Use Code Regulations, and addition of new Section 12.22, addressing development standards for churches.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 15 is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 54 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Personnel, as it relates to amendments to Article 3, Section 4, Division 4, Section 118, sick leave.
So moved.
Second.
This is a second reading, so if there's no new information from anyone, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 16 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Zoning for a text revision of Sections 2.2 Definitions, 4.7 Special Flood Hazard Overlay District, and 6.4 Table of Use Code Regulations to address changes made by passage of H7741, Substitute A, which amended the height limits for buildings under Rhode Island General Laws, Section 45-24-31.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So this is what our public hearing was on tonight, and the public hearing that had been continued from a week ago regarding these height limits on the buildings. So I wanted to thank the town staff, specifically Mr. DeLuca and Ms. Sabo, for all of their work on this. And anyone on the council have any discussion on this? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Very good. Motion approved, 5-0. And item 17, a motion to adopt a resolution establishing an administrative compensation schedule for fiscal year 2018 to 19.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This comes from a recommendation from Mr. Manny regarding the salary ranges for some of our town staff, specifically 2 of our executive secretaries and our Parks and Rec and HR directors. Any discussion? Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Next is open forum public comment. These are items that people in the town want to comment on, issues that are of interest to the town. So I ask people to come forward on that.
Matt,
Yes.
you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
All
Yep.
right.
Mr. Murray's requested to go first.
All right. Sorry, gonna have to wait a few more minutes. Mike? All right. Just wanted to discuss the sale of the Belmont Marketplace. Certainly over the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of concern. So this is just a quick, yet another PowerPoint. We're going to zip right through here. Okay, the cost, we discussed these costs earlier, a couple weeks ago, of delay. Basically $350 a day, $9,800 a month. We wait till the next election, it's another, hang on there, big fella, $235,000. Cost of litigation, that's an unknown. It's my understanding 2 attorneys, at least one's been retained, another one's soon to be retained. I think this is a lot of wasted energy, and these monies could go towards the build-out of the Belmont. The dissension, and we started out with a $5.8 million bond approval. We purchased a building. I think voters right now feel a little disenfranchised. And right now there's at least 4 voter initiatives exist for different reasons. And I think what the solution is, and it's in the charter, that we can have a special election within 4 months. And this is the question I propose in this election. And this, I got to give credit to my secret co-sponsor, Jill Lawler, because last year you won an election on this very subject. So the question would be, should the town...
For the record, I'm not a co-sponsor of it.
No, but you, well, we'll discuss. Inspiration. Should the town of Narragansett move the Murray Lugents Library to the town-owned Belmont Market space, renovate with a previously passed $5.8 million bond, and rename Narragansett Pear-Free Library? This would be a vote, a ballot, within 4 months, up and down vote. We just, finally we get, an up and down vote, and that would be it. Put this to bed. Either we're going to move forward in that building, or we're not going to move forward in that building, and let the people decide again. So.
Thank you.
Jesse's a co-sponsor. But my reference to Jill Lawler, because last year you suggested we have a vote on.
Actually, I suggested that we put it onto the election, so we didn't have. This would cost us $30,000 to have a special election.
Well, it's going to cost us $230,000.
But Patrick, just to clarify, what my point was if we could have it as a question on the ballot.
Right.
That's what I had suggested.
Right. Well,
okay.
But
thank you.
Yeah, this may cost about $30,000, but it's going to resolve this issue. In 4 months, we'll have a path to go down. I think there's one more slide there, Mike. And after the results of the election, we got to live with it. I think the town council should sign a resolution. Should be implemented to move forward expeditiously without prejudice, regard to the election results. If the library build out is no, then we go with rehabbing the current library, and we just get behind it, because this has got to stop. We can't go 2 years battling and all this divisiveness. It's not healthy. So, often it's been said there's a silent majority out there who don't want the location in the Belmont. This is giving everybody a chance to get another bite at the apple and have a defined vote on a defined location for a defined project. And Jesse's sponsoring this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Just briefly, just to Patrick's point, again, there are 3 buildings there. There is not 1 building, but 3 buildings, a liquor store, which seems quite successful, the 2nd floor, which probably is the greatest folly ever designed by a human being, totally useless, and the white elephant, the old Belmont Market. In fact, when I went in there with Patrick, I wished I had some peanuts to feed to the white elephant. I don't think this is going to sell. And we're out $2.8 million.
And I do agree with Patrick, this can't go on, and I suggest again, 3 M's: moderation of discussion, some meditation, but most importantly, we need mediation. This is a case where mediation might help, much more than a special vote. It is, and a mediator would get the library board listen to its position, meet with the council, go back and forth, and maybe there is some hope of reconciliation. But mediation really is what we really need. And it's a lot better than having another divisive election, because this time the no people are going to play hardball with the yes people. I think a mediator could solve this problem.
Thank you. Yes, Harry.
Good evening. Harry Schofield, Atlantic Avenue. I'm here tonight representing NPRA. Our chairman, Joe Notarantonio, is away on vacation. We recently had a winter breakfast, and many of our NPRA members, following your vote there a while ago, expressed their dismay and concern over the decision to sell the business or the Belmont market before, pricing it out. I believe NPRA is the only neighborhood organization that professionally polls its membership each year to accurately reflect member opinions on the major issues facing both the town and the peer. And so following on that commitment and given the feedback we had, our chair took a quick email survey to see how many members supported getting an RFP and getting it priced out at both options. Getting a price to rehab the current library, and getting a price to convert the Belmont, the former Belmont, market facility before putting it up for sale. Many of our members, NPRA members, voted for the bond and therefore expect to get either a new library or a newly rehabbed, library as a result. Our member opinions vary widely as to which build-out option is best and how inclusive the library should be regarding other community functions, and I don't plan or pretend to try to represent everybody's views here. But most of our members do agree that libraries are community gathering institutions, and the result of Joe's poll is unanimous with respect to the following points. Our members that responded unanimously responded in the following ways. Now they feel that the town has taken a step to purchase this building. The town council should get an RFP developed that is designed to solicit quotes on both library build-out options, rehabbing the current facility, and converting the former Belmont market before any decision is made to sell the Belmont market. We are currently fortunate. He's not here tonight, but we have good business management, at least at the moment. And we believe you can secure a negotiated packaged price for an RFP that includes pricing out both options at far less than, double the cost of doing two separate RFPs. That can be done. Those types of negotiations are done all the time. It's called volume purchasing. I've done it myself many times as a business person. So our members feel we're where we are. There's no point in debating how we got here, but where we are, our membership does feel unified that we should get both of these options priced out properly so we know what the cost differences are before taking actions to sell the former Belmont market. NPRA members also feel unified in the fact that at all costs, the library should remain in the pier, and also that should the town see to it that any future use of the library building should it turn out that it not become the library, we feel now that the town owns it, that it should not be sold other than to some usage that is complementary to enhancing the pier as a town center.
Thank you.
Those points we're unified on, okay?
Thank you, Harry.
I just want to say, briefly, clearly the last council booted the ball in that it didn't do all the fiduciary work it should have before purchasing this building. But that failure doesn't justify an equally impulsive movement to sell the building before these options are priced out. The cost is trivial, we think, in the grand scheme of things. And the benefits include, harmony that can come out of open, process that lays the options bare, prices and all for all to see. Let the facts speak for themselves.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, Al.
Well, I'm in agreement with these two gentlemen in regards to, we have to be unified. I'm sure all members, you guys are volunteering your time, you're all highly educated, and we respect you all. And you all want what's in the best interest of Narragansett. And, my dad's attended town meetings for years. He always wanted the best for Narragansett as well. So I think if we can work together collegially, I think that's the best way to go. And I think it would enhance our town immensely. We won't have to get the lawyers involved. We won't have to have a bitter taste after the one way or the other. If we can work together as a team, I think we're all going to be winners. And thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, just want to remind everyone to state your name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, yeah. Al had said it before, Eagles Nest Terrace, yeah. Yes.
Hi, my name is Carter Starr, 23 2nd Street, Narragansett. I just wanted to clarify and elaborate a little on what I had said at the prior town council meeting. In relation to comments from some council members that because they want a seat on the council meant that they had a self-proclaimed mandate to block the library move. To be clear, the 3 councilors who voted to put the newly purchased building up for sale only received 43% of the vote during the last election. The candidates who are openly and vocally in support of the library move received 57% of the vote. 43% of the council vote recipients should not be dictating and overruling what is the will of an overwhelming majority of Narragansett voters, the 68%. Of the 68% that voted for the bond and the 57% of the voters who voted for candidates supporting the library move. I also hear that the vote of the 3 minority vote getters on the council appears to be disrupting some other town spending. I'm not sure on that. I would welcome be clarified on that. I just hope that at least one of you 3 will recognize the damage that you are doing to the town's reputation and to the town finances, and will change your vote to be in line with what the majority of voters want and have voted for in this town. Recognizing one's mistakes and correcting them is an admirable trait, and particularly with politicians. We have a gem of a town. Please do not continue sowing divisiveness or discord in the town, and please just do what the voters voted for, not what the minority voted for. You represent the whole town, not just the minority who voted for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janice Holly from Narragansett.
Janice, just say your address, please.
Foddering Farm Road. I don't come to many town council meetings. This is new to me. And I had some plans tonight, some really good plans, but I canceled them because this was so important to me. There isn't as big a crowd tonight as there was before, but everyone that was here before is listening either on television or they're going to hear tomorrow, and they all feel exactly the same. I don't think they've changed any. I know I haven't. So I'm not going to repeat what everyone said, but they're going to hear about the decision that you made tonight, especially when you just put that motion aside that these two members had for us. So there's not really much more to say. I will say that the last time, at that last meeting, I had a flicker of hope when there was a line going out the door to speak to you. And people were pleading and they were begging. And I thought to myself, maybe one of the three is going to hear us and change. I just thought that might happen. I had that hope. So I still have it, and I hope you will. And if not, I agree with whatever anyone wants to do about another vote or whatever, because the people did vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valina Foster, 34 Homeland Avenue. Hello again.
Hello.
Just want to say I appreciate Pat Murray's and Jesse Pugh's work to help get Narragansett the library we deserve, the library we need, the library that will continue to serve us, and most importantly, the library in the pier that the majority voted for. The center of town in the pier is the ideal location for the Narragansett Library that we voted for. The south end, as proposed by some on Clock Road, is not convenient, especially for our students who don't drive. Plus, remember, this is Rhode Island. We don't like to go too far. Also like to mention field trips. As many of the folks who work at the library, the dedicated individuals there will tell you, there are often walking field trips to the town library from the elementary school and sometimes the peer school. Field trips are a wonderful part of education, and the idea of walking to the library does so many positive things. You're being green by walking and not using buses. You're getting outside, you're moving, and then you go to the library for the icing on the cake. So if we put the library somewhere else, we're not going to be able to have those wonderful opportunities. Additionally, the center of town, having the library in the pier, helps to give our town more of a community feeling, more of a connectedness. I heard somebody say that, why would you want a library near the beach? We are the beach. But one of the reasons you want a library near the beach is you stop by, you get a book, you get a Kindle, you get whatever else, the many things that the library offers, and then you go to the beach and enjoy yourself. Or maybe you just get a book and you go over to Gazebo Park and read your book on a blanket there. Why rehash the will of the people and spend more money than necessary by stalling? Narragansett wants the new peer library that the majority voted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Umfrello.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. A lot has been talked about tonight, the will of the people. Believe it or not, there's more than one issue in Narragansett. We saw tonight there's a lot of town business. There is no mandate for the library at the Belmont building.
Paul's direct, it's up here.
So that's just an example of what happens if somebody comes up here and says something. The reason the silent majority doesn't speak up is because they don't want to be ridiculed and harassed. There were 4 candidates that the Friends of the Library endorsed. 2 of them got on. 1 lost by 87 votes. The other one finished in the basement. The town cares about more than the library. In fact, you could argue the town was telling us to have people, you had somebody that ran against the library and moving it and got elected. So all this sort of conjecture on the vote count, the percentages, town charter says 5 people get elected, 5 people make the decisions. You don't have the votes right now. And so how do you solve that? All the talk about lawsuits and all the incivility that's going on is coming from the library side. It's embodied by the 2 spiritual leaders that are on the council who've decided to insult people who oppose it, insult fellow councilors. That's, I mean, it's a hostage-taking situation. So it's like, geez, it's a nice town you got here. It would be terrible if you got sued. They're instituting those actions. So why don't we show some real leadership and build some trust instead of PowerPoints making fun of the president of the town council, instead of insults, obscene texts. Why don't we get some real leadership to build trust between the library and the town council rather than threats after threats after threats?
Thank you.
Councilman Mannix, can I address Mr. Zonfrillo's
you can
concern?
address me.
Okay.
You can address me.
All right, so this is where this special election comes in. This buries the hatchet. This is a reset. It's a specific question about this issue. Up and down vote. If you got a silent majority, they get another bite at the apple, and this will be settled.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. No, we're good. Karen.
Karen Cheb, Shuttlewoods, Wanda Street. I really resent another citizen coming up and harassing the people that believe in the library, making all kinds of crude and unnecessary remarks about our right to exercise our First Amendment right, which is our important attitude about the library. And Mr. Mannix, you misquoted me when you quoted, I was away last week, and you quoted somebody who had sent you an email, and I know that was me. I had asked you to ask forgiveness and step down and have the 5th vote getter also step down and give the leadership role to the people that deserve it, that know how to build communities, that have fought for what they believe is right, which what the people believe is right. I don't like the attitude of a monarchy taking over our democracy and snickering when we talk, making fun of when we talk, and putting to bed all the hard work that people have advocated for the library. And I know I've spoken to a couple of you individually, Mr. Lima and Jill, and I feel I was very betrayed once you got elected to the council, what your attitude has been. And I find the attitude is really bringing down the whole town. People aren't going to want to move to this town because of your behavior and your innuendos and treating the citizens as an enemy. I think it's disgraceful. And Mr. Mannix, you can twist and turn the words that were, obviously, you're an obstructionist. You don't really care about the community, because if you did, you wouldn't be doing all the things you're doing. And I find it's my community, it's our community, and I don't see you building anything except destruction and disturbing the people that are trying to really build a community. It's like a ghost town here. I think your backers are a lot of people that don't live here full time, that vote, have, or rent out a lot of their homes so they don't want to spend any money for the town. And it's turning into, we're getting recruiting students from out of town because families don't want to move here. And I think it's disgraceful.
For the record, I did not misquote you.
Yes, you did.
I did not.
Yes, you did. And I even wrote it.
If you want to share the email with everyone, Karen, you can.
I wrote a
Go
letter
ahead.
to the editor in the paper,
Go ahead.
Matthew.
You
I
share
wrote a
the
letter. Oh, but you're good at forwarding the letters to the
why don't you
NPRA.
Why don't you?
And you claim you know the
Karen,
Robert's
I'm gonna-
Rules of
Karen,
Order because you're a lawyer?
You're out of
Other
order.
of us
I
can
did not
read.
misquote you. Why don't you share your email then? And we can
I don't
get
have
the
it
truth
with
out.
me, but maybe one of the members of the NPRA does.
Thank you.
Tracy Weingartner, Kingstown Road in Narragansett.
Can I have a clarification? Yeah. Last time that you spoke, you gave an address. It sounded familiar to me, 35 Kingstown Road.
And it is.
It's a library
Familiar to you.
address.
It's the library.
So because it sounded familiar, I asked our town clerk just to clarify.
Good idea.
You're free to speak,
Thank you.
but I wanted to make sure that you were a Narragansett resident.
Not at the moment.
You're not. So you're a South Count. Just want to make sure everybody knows that you are a South Kingstown registered
Exactly.
voter. Just want to point that out.
Thank you. And I just want to point out for 19 years I lived here, but they made it impossible for me to do that. So I live in West Narragansett. My first point, and these are simply points, just my observation. It seems that the open forum is manipulated in order to be the least convenient for the townspeople. Just an observation. Mr. Mannix continually refers to Robert's rules, which I can't imagine were written so that constituents never get an opportunity to ask a council member a direct question and get an answer. Mr. Mannix accused the Library Board of Trustees and the Friends of the Library of being an angry mob who had created a frenzy to influence the town people in supporting them to put him out of office by any means possible. I was at the meeting where he said that, and I certainly was here when he said it again last Sunday, and I don't believe it was accurate. Mr. Lima, on April 16th, stated on camera that he doesn't have to answer any questions from constituents, especially those who did not vote for him. I found that odd. Ms. Lawler he also mentioned that although the townspeople were encouraged to write to their town council member at narragansett.gov, that she never opens those emails because she doesn't know who they might be from. I simply have to wonder what Mr. Lawler, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima could possibly be keeping them on this council. And I think we're all wondering that. In the face of 1,200 petitions, jam-packed council meetings, expert testimony from state officials and fundraising professionals, impeccable financial analysis week after week after week, demonstrating minimal impact on the future taxpayers and ruthless determination to be physically responsible to those taxpayers, I simply can't imagine, and we're all wondering, what's keeping you on the council and stopping you from resigning. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. The library does wonderful things. It has movies and lectures and speakers, and for that it needs an auditorium. I just saw a yoga sign. For that, it needs a gym. It has youthful events, and for that, it probably needs a facility like Clark Road has. It has senior events and probably special movies for them, and for that, it needs a senior citizen center. If you go to the URI, you see that library, and it's open space full of tables. They want quiet space for the kids to go over there with the computer. So there's so much required there. I'm not so sure this one building can satisfy all the event activity that's being pursued by the library. So maybe we need to explore whether we could use this bond to update and improve all the facilities that could be said is part of the library. It's part of the library buildings. Library, does it have to be one building? South Kingston has numerous buildings. But we need to pursue maybe something that could fix all our buildings so all these events could happen, not just this one. So we need a little more investigation on this. Thank you.
Stanley, just to clarify, that bond can only be used for new real estate. You can't use it on existing buildings.
Can't use it on existing buildings.
That the town owns. Yeah, it has to be new real estate.
Well, that's unfortunate at this point, because I'm not so sure one building is going to be able to do all that this library is trying to do. We've got a problem here. We've got to look at the. We've got to look at the. How can they do what they with this small building out in that Belmont building? Another thing, libraries, quiet space. If you look at URI, I went to URI. All you have there now is they're taking down all the books, and they just got tables and tables and seats. And I don't even see that many computers. Everybody brings their own computer. So the new library of the future is tables, so somebody can go in there with their computer and have a quiet space. And of course, all the events here, I'm not so sure we're looking at what the future of libraries is. It's quiet space, I think, rather than an activity area. And therefore, we have to separate that. How do we do that? I don't know. But I hope you look at that. This one building, I'm not so sure can do that. I'm not so sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Urcher.
I am in the silent majority, and so I figured I'd speak. And there's many more people that I know that feel the same as I do. They're concerned about the library.
Just state your name, Richard.
Richard Zercher, 25 Marion Avenue. Resident of the town of Narragansett for 53 years. And I'm a little confused with the wording, I guess, on the referendum. Does anyone have the actual wording? I thought it said to renovate an existing town library or purchase or, what is it?
It's purchase and renovate.
Yes, I watched the meeting on, I think it's July 18th, when it was passed in 2016. And that's what I'm just going by. So if I'm wrong, correct me, please. But there's a lot of, I'm listening for the first time. I come to the meeting. I didn't make the last one. But the back and forth and the name calling and the calling out on social media. Coincidentally, I happened to be on one of the pages. I was added to it. And what I've seen from people in town and the attacks that are levied on the town council and council members, I can't believe it. I mean, I think there's people that are older than me and adults, and I cannot believe that they talk the way they talk and how they want to come down and disrupt the meeting and how they're going to go about it. And I haven't seen anyone in these forums, in the leadership of the library group or something like that, maybe try to tone it down and say, we shouldn't take that approach. We should be professional or at least cordial and not disruptive. So I find that to be a real problem. So there's many other issues I guess I can discuss, but one of the things I'll just say, I haven't been in favor of the library for the location. I love the idea of a library. I'm pretty sure that everyone on town council has said that they love the idea of a library. I just don't like the location at the Gilbane building. I didn't know that the Belmont building was on the ballot. I never saw it. I saw to renovate or whatever existing building to buy. That was it. That's what I voted for and the people I know voted for. So then I find it almost laughable afterwards to hear someone speak and say, you can go get a book, go to Gazebo Park. Laughable that you would have to walk off town property, through a commercial property, and then to a town park place to enjoy your book. Because you can't do that at the library when you walk outside and spread your blanket on the asphalt out front. Because there is no green space, there's no trees, there's no grass, there's no birds flying around, there's nothing for children to see except a closed-in building where they can be housed inside. So I'm against the Belmont building, not against the new library. I think there's a couple of choices we could make, or renovate the existing one. I don't think the existing one's the answer. I think we could find another location in town, close by the pier, that's accessible to everybody, and the town's only a mile wide. It's not that far to travel, and you certainly could find a place to read a book outside in a green space in a different location. Thank you.
Yeah, Richard,
Thank
hang
you.
on. Can I approach the?
Just make the comment.
All right, all right.
It's a public comment.
Here, you know?
It's a public comment
all right,
situation.
Would you be on
not a court
board
of law.
with another election?
This is not a question and answer session, Patrick.
See? That's what I'm saying.
It's not.
I think the point I was trying to make,
it's not.
Everyone keeps
It's not a
calling
court of
out-
law. It's not a question and answer session.
I think everyone keeps calling out the 7% of the voters voted for the Belmont Library. I don't think that's the truth. And please someone correct me. I'm pretty sure what the verbiage was about renovating the existing building or purchase another piece of property.
It said purchase and renovate.
Right, but it
Purchase
didn't say
and
the
renovate.
Belmont building. So everyone keeps saying that the majority voted for the Belmont building. I don't think that's true. So, I mean, please someone
Thank
correct
you.
me.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt,
Is
I'm
there
gonna
anyone
use,
else? It's
I can do
purchase
open
and
forum,
renovate.
correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I wasn't planning on speaking in open forum, but I can answer a couple questions for Rich as well while I'm doing this. So it is the acquisition and renovation of real estate. So not or, but and. So it does specify that you'd have to purchase real estate. But I do want to go through a little bit of the timeline over the last few years on how we got to this point, because I think there is some confusion on whether it's the Belmont building or whether it's another space in town, or if you can renovate the current building. So I'm just going to quickly go through the last 3 years with the town council, the board of trustees, and maybe clarify some of what happened and how we got here. So in September 28th, 2015, there was a town council work session. It was a new library discussion. The members of the town council were Matt Mannix, Susan Cicilline-Bonanno, Patrick Murray, Ray Rinaldi, Chris Wilkins. So a different council, members with different backgrounds, different political affiliations, different philosophies. There were 4 proposals discussed at that meeting, so this is 2015. The 4 proposals were renovate and expand the current site, build a new library at the current site, so that'd be tearing it down and building from scratch, move and renovate, excuse me, the Belmont Market, so move to and renovate Belmont Market, or to build a new library near the community center. So those were the 4 options. We have minutes from these meetings, so it's all on record. A few things said at this meeting. Matt Mannix asked if the board saw one option more viable than the other options. It was noted that the move to the Belmont Market was more viable. Susan Cicilline-Bonanno said she would like to explore the Belmont Market. Chris Wilkins said he thought Belmont Market was more viable for the downtown area and if it was financially feasible for a bond referendum. Ray Rinaldi also commented he did not like the idea of a new building near the community center. He also said the Belmont building was a good idea. Patrick Murray said the Belmont property was the obvious choice and asked if there was any chance Gilbane would donate it. Matt Mannix noted that a lot of work and vetting had been done on the 4 options, and he thought a deal breaker for him would be the Belmont property not owning the building and the land together. But we ended up buying the building and the land. Chris Wilkins commented that leasing was not an option. Matt Mannix asked if the council wanted to cross off any of the 4 options, or if it had one option they thought was first on their list. The consensus was the Belmont property and the existing site were the favorites, and the site at the community center was out. It was also noted that the Belmont property should be purchased and not leased. So again, this is directly from the minutes from that meeting. So it's not my summary, it's specifically read off of that. October 15th, 2015, Matt Mannix explained that the town needs to own the land. So that was the sticking point, that he didn't want to have a condo situation or lease it when it had to own the land. Town council meeting, April 4th, 2016. There was a motion placed on the agenda under new business. A motion to adopt a resolution requesting the General Assembly to authorize the town to place a bond referendum question on the November 2016 general election ballot. That, if passed, would authorize the town of Narragansett to issue not more than $5.8 million in bonds and notes for the purchase or construction of a new library. It is the consensus of the library board, town council, and town staff that an authorization in this amount will allow the town to purchase an existing building and perform renovation construction work necessary to develop a fully functioning library. After reviewing options that included the renovation, reconstruction of the existing library building, and the purchase of the former Belmont Market building, along with 59 parking spaces, the preferred plan at this time is the latter, the acquisition and build-out of the Belmont Market building. So then we had an advertisement for the bond. This was placed in the newspapers around town. Again, not the official ballot measure on the ballot, but this was what was advertised. The purpose of this borrowing is to provide the funds for the town to acquire the former Belmont supermarket and administrative offices in the Pier Marketplace, along with approximately 59 parking spaces, and to renovate and equip that space as a library for related costs of design, financing, and acquisition. October 13th, 2016, we have the South County Independent, Matthew Enright, the reporter, covering the beat for the Independent. On November 8th, Narragansett voters will decide if they wish to spend $5.8 million to build a new library in the former Belmont Market in the Pier Marketplace. Should Narragansett spend $5.8 million to move Maury Lujan's Memorial Library to the former Belmont Market space in the Pier Marketplace? November 10th, just after the election, again, Matthew Enright, South County Independent. Narragansett voters want a new library and they're willing to pay for it. By a nearly 2-to-1 margin, voters approved the local ballot question number 8, Tuesday night, authorizing the town to spend $5.8 million to move Maury Lujan's Memorial Library to the former Belmont Market space. Narragansett Times, different reporter, Phil Cozzolino. November 16th, 2016. The Maury Lujan's Memorial Library is proposed to go into the location of the former Belmont Market in the Pier Marketplace. Then we had the ballot. Yeah, so basically, we're talking 2015 through the election. The narrative was always the Belmont Marketplace. The council was in consensus. It wasn't finally on the ballot, but if you're going to negotiate for real estate, you're probably not going to advertise on the ballot. You kind of lose a little leverage. So that makes sense to not specify it in the ballot so you can still work on the negotiations. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. I understand there is a silent segment of the population who's not interested in the Belmont Market. The interesting thing about saying silent majority is that it's a convenient excuse. It's a convenient term because you can't prove it and you can't disprove it because it's silent. So the only way that you can prove it is to get a vocal majority. And I would stand behind Patrick's call for a special election. I think you know, if we're wrong and everyone, you know, 90% of the people are wrong, vote again, specifically on that question. We pledge to follow the results of that. We don't want to build something that people don't want in town. So I'm confident it'll pass. If it doesn't pass, we were wrong. And I think, you know, we're losing $10,000 a month in construction costs, you know, increases. Do this, $20,000 to $30,000. We can do it in 3 to 4 months, so we can move on. We'll either do it or we won't. But selling the building without having this discussion, without the RFP, that's just not the right thing to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Patty?
My name is Patty Arkwright. I'm the library director. I do not live in town, but I do see a lot of people using the library, and I want to take this time to remind the council and the members of this audience why the library people are here and speaking out to how much the library means to them. I have statistics that I'd like to share. We fill these out annually for the state, and this tells you how much our library is used and what a resource we have. Right now, for 2018, we have 7,376 library card holders. That's almost 50% of the town's population. We also have a collection. The size is 154,000 items, 699. Our circulation is 171,999. That means every item in the library checks out at least once a year. As far as programming, I know there's a discussion about what's appropriate for a library or not, but let me ask you this. Is there someone in town or an agency in town that can host 435 programs a year and bring in 9,941 people? Those are the kinds of statistics that we look at for the year. Circulation may be going down, but library use overall is up, and we have 118,384 visitors a year. And that is a lot of traffic for a 9,000 square foot building. To have a building twice that size would let us do the things that we have been doing over the years, just in more comfortable situations, safer situations, and overall lending to the better quality of life for the community residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Meg.
So since no one mentioned it here tonight, can I just hear it for the Patriots? I think that we should always remember that Coach Scarnecchia is actually a member of the Pier Residents Association, he and his wife. So we have a linkage to the Patriots right here in Narragansett Pier. So words haven't worked, and data hasn't worked, numbers haven't worked, so I thought maybe a picture would work. This picture is worth 1,000 words because it's a picture taken at the event to celebrate the acquisition of the Belmont building. There it is. And clearly in the picture, it's like going to a party. You usually go to a party unless you sort of want to celebrate what's happening. You can clearly see Candidate Lima, Councilwoman Lawler. Candidate Lima, Councilwoman Lawler. I wonder why you were there. And maybe if you take a step back, you'll realize that this is why people don't trust you.
Direct your question, direct it to me, Meg.
Absolutely, Council President. This is perhaps why people don't trust these folks, because they feel there was a bait and switch, because this was October 28th or thereabouts, precisely 2 weeks or so before people went to vote. So why did you go to a celebration for acquiring a building with Mr. Gilbane, and you walked into a meeting in December 3rd after you were sworn in and said you didn't want to build the building there? I don't get it. So I want to talk about a question that Mr. Lima asked the night of the workshop. because it really worries me. What is the plan of the no votes if the state stops granting waivers? Mr. Lima asked a question of the OLIS director at the workshop. He said, why can't they, and I assume he meant the library patrons, just go somewhere else? Remarkably, the OLIS director used the example of Central Falls while it was in receivership, being allowed by the city of Pawtucket to use their libraries. So I ask you, if we lose our waivers because we have no strategic plan to implement any longer, has anyone discussed with the neighboring towns, the town of South Kingstown, how they can accommodate 10,000 patrons a month, rising exponentially each summer? Mr. Lima, you asked if we could pay a fee of an unknown amount to the Ocean State Library as a separate 501c3, but we don't even know if we could do that if we're out of compliance. So what is your plan? I have never heard the three of you address the very real issues that are facing us. The library's in crisis. We know we're not ADA compliant, which is not just a shameful embarrassment for our town, and places people at genuine risk. But there are so many other issues that don't seem to concern you because you never talk about them. Just a few of them are the aisle widths are substandard. There's just one rear emergency exit. There's no ramps for wheelchairs or assistive equipment. The access to the shutoff valve for the water main, the furnace, and electrical panels are inaccessible except through a floor panel in the children's room. There's no doors for emergency exits in some rooms and so forth. The mezzanines and second floors can't be used. There's so many violations. But one of the most glaring deficiencies is that children do not have separate bathrooms from adults, which is an issue of significant public safety in the town. And what is your plan, please tell me, to keep children safe? What is your plan to keep children safe? I listen to Councilwoman Lawler often discuss her belief that this project of the Belmont is just too large in scale and too big for Narragansett. We're a small town, we should settle for a small library. And you know, I wondered if she was right. So I did a little bit of research on the subject, and all I can say is you're grossly uninformed.
Thank you, Meg.
You let Mr. Schofield talk, and he doesn't live here full time. Did you know that
Meg,
nearly,
go to your seat. I've had enough of your destructiveness. Go to your seat. Go to your seat. Go to your seat. 4 minutes.
I'll finish.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll finish up, Matt. I know you want to be a gentleman. Did you know that nearly 8 out of 10 public library systems serve rural areas or small towns? Did you know that Bill and Melinda Gates began a foundation dedicated to small-town libraries? The Best Small Library in America Award is given annually to public libraries serving populations like ours under 25,000. And it encourages and showcases exemplary work and grants money to libraries whose towns have risen to the challenge of creating small libraries to serve their communities. And
Meg, you're well over your amount.
One of the recent recipients of these funds wrote this: our innovations have brought us closer to the people we serve. And we're incredibly thankful to our patrons, our donor, and our town council. We need our town council. All it's missing is some enthusiasm for our town council to let Narragansett be part of the library evolution in America. Please let us have our library.
Matt, before...
Cam Weiner, 141 Central Street.
Go ahead.
I'm neighbors to the town hall. And you're very good neighbors also. Thank you so much. Now on a lighter moment. How many people have lived in this town since 1950? Please raise your hands. Did I see one person?
Address the chair.
Two persons? I've been here since 1950, and we had a library on Beach Street. It was in a little shop, and Bunny Coxall was the librarian, and we had a kerosene stove in the winter so that the people from Narragansett could come and get their books. I think there were weren't there about 3,000 people here in 1950? I know you weren't, but you might have some history. And we had a wonderful town meeting. You know, the one where the moderator stands up and then people stand up and talk and they vote for everything. We had a town, and it met right in this room because this was the elementary school, kindergarten through 9. And right up here in front, a group of about 10 men with very deep voices. When a motion was made, and the moderator would say, "All in favor say aye," these 10 men would shout, "Aye!" A negative, nay. And a few of us would say, "No, the ayes have it." Now, these 10 men were not elected, but they all met up in Westlake's, you know where Westlake's garage is? Up in their house was right next door, and that's where they planned the town. Am I seeing history being repeated? We only have 3 people that say aye, and then we have 2 who are not very timid say no. But then after a while, God bless us all, the League of Women Voters got together, and we kept saying, this isn't right. The majority should vote and be winning. And so we elected some young Turks, and they decided we should have a charter and some rules. And so the town hall was over on Rodman Street along with the fire department. And upstairs, these young Turks would meet, but nobody could speak. So the League of Women Voters, we would go up and just sit in the back and make our presence known. And then when they were starting to write the rules for the town, I said, gee, I wonder what this could be. Could one of you ladies look this up for us? I'm telling you, we have a pretty good charter here, thanks to the League of Women Voters. Now, and if you'd like to join, you're welcome. We'll even take men. I just don't want us to get back to the place where the town isn't represented. It really bothers me, and I know everybody has the best of intentions, and son of a gun, didn't the League of Women Voters have some of you up in an election? I don't think we thought we would talk about the library because we figured everybody knew how important that was. But I just thought you ought to know a little bit about the history of how this town used to be run before the league took over and helped out. And I'll be 94 next month, so I've got to sit down.
Before you get up and speak, Steve, please.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to go ahead and address, Meg, I'm so glad that you brought that photo here today. Someone had sent to me actually one of Mr. Pugh's postings on the Narragansett Town Council Forum specifically about that occasion. So I'm happy to talk about why I was there. I'm an elected official, and a couple of weeks, or I'm not even sure about the timing, before this photo was taken, I was on the losing side of a vote. I voted not to purchase the Belmont building. But as an elected official, I have to show up. I went there, Patty, I shook your hand. I said, this must be a very happy day for you, Patty Ackright. I went there because I was an elected official. That's what you do, you show up. And to Mr. Pugh's question on social media, asking about doesn't this then state my support of the project? My answer is no, I'm an elected official. Just as when you and Patrick were on the losing side of the last meeting, you chose to walk out. Sometimes you're going to be on the winning side, sometimes you're going to be on the losing side. But as an elected official, you stay the ground, you show up, you go to work. You guys, you left the last meeting, you missed an executive session afterward. We had heard that you had, I'd love to know the truth, were you out at a bar with Susan Bonanno afterwards, rather than doing town business? That's a question. It's been out in social media, so I figured I'd like to ask you guys if that's true.
I'd like to address that. You know what? I was so inebriated, I don't really remember. But for the record, I have perfect attendance at the regular town council meeting for 4+ years. That's the first time I missed a meeting. So I think
you walked out.
I did walk out after that taste of democracy. I couldn't stomach to sit up here any longer. I'm sorry.
As an elected official, sometimes you're going to be on the winning side, sometimes the losing side. No matter what it is, you need to be here for the town. That's your job.
All right, this is public comment. I think we've this is devolving into something it shouldn't. But it's public comment. It's supposed to be comments about what you feel about what's going on in the town. So is there anyone else who can add something constructive to the conversation? Go ahead.
Hi, Stephen Bellis, 2 Blindbrook Drive, Narragansett. Little lighter side. 2 weeks ago, Councilman Lima said that he really does want a library, but a state-of-the-art library. He also said that he would produce an RFP for a new state-of-the-art library in 2 weeks, which is tonight. I would like to know if the councilman has his RFP with him tonight, and if not, when will the RFP for a new state-of-the-art library be available? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Yes.
Patricia Cole, 20 Bayberry Road in Narragansett. And I'd just like to say, as elected officials, you are supposed to adhere to the principles of a representative democracy. That means that when the majority votes for something, even if you don't agree, and you can't persuade us to come to your side, which you have not done, you have to adhere to the principles of a representative democracy.
Lori.
Lori Kelly, 25 Wildfield Farm Road. I just want to go over and thank you, Jesse and Patrick, of course, but for going over some of the history tonight, because I think that is helpful. We feel like we've said it at every single meeting since 2009, but clearly a lot of people are not, following along and are coming in late to the project. Some other things that so NPRA now wants to have the RFP for the Belmont, great, but I want to remind the council, all 5 of you, that we have had architects, 2 different architect plans for our current building, one in 2008 and one in 2015, and we had cost estimation numbers on those projects that were presented to the council at that time. And for those of you who are not on the council at that time, we have invited each and every one of you to come to the library and go over these numbers and these plans, which we've had. So that work has been done, which is why it is so confusing to us why people are saying the last council didn't do their due diligence, the last council was not fiscally responsible in making this decision. That is not true. We have had the longest, slowest project in the history of Narragansett in anything regarding building projects that I have seen. Perhaps I'm wrong. And it has been done in a fiscally responsible way. The Belmont project was chosen because the numbers made sense. People wanted it in the pier, and it was going to be by far the cheapest building to refit and renovate. The only other thing that I wanted to, so I did want to mention very briefly that, we had 5 years on the bond from 2016, and I believe a lot of this delaying game, which is I'm starting to agree with Jesse, it seems to be a game that's going on because the bond will run out. And then we won't have to talk about Belmont anymore. Then we'll have to start all over again because obviously that's what is going forward with the 3 that are voting against this project. So the time is running out. We really need to go forward with the RFP. There is no harm in finding out what the numbers are saying, and to start throwing other things into the mix now is very late. And I think it's interesting that NPRA now is worried about the Belmont building being sold because, of course, that's going to affect them if it becomes drug rehabilitation or some other entity that we can't control. And once it's sold, it could be resold again to some other other business that we wouldn't have no control over. So, and the only other thing is that, yes, people have gotten very emotional and have called each other names, and I certainly do not support that, and I'm sure the council doesn't support that as well. But I have never heard in all the years that I've been coming to the council a sitting council member saying, you vote in South Kingstown, to a person who is publicly speaking on any issue here. And I caution you, because we say our address in Narragansett, we're not saying whether we vote here or not, and I have never heard anyone make that distinction. So I hope that we can back away from that kind of attitude. Thank you.
Matt, just a clarification, Matt, since that was me who asked for that. When you come to the podium, it's actually even stated there. You asked to state your name and your address. And unfortunately, someone had given an address that was the address of a library, and I felt important to straighten that out because people that are listening, people that are being informed, we really want to know what people think that are town residents. Sure, we want to understand what South Kingstown residents might say, but it's important for the taxpayers to understand what other taxpayers are saying.
All right, great. We're going to move on now to our executive session. A motion to retire to executive session of the Town Council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42-46-4 and 42-46-5, subsection A, to discuss real estate.
So
wait, no one can hear it. Acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, subsection A5, to discuss personnel, hiring town engineer in accordance with 42-46-5, subsection A1, and to discuss collective bargaining, police, IBPO Local 303, and fire, IAFF Local 1589, labor contract negotiations update in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, A2. I'm going to look for a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We're going to do a roll call vote, but before that, everyone, if you could leave, we're doing a roll call vote to go in executive session.
Let's do the vote. Do the vote. They can hear us on the TV. Do the vote. Let's get going.
Roll call vote. Jesse Pugh.
Here.
Aye or aye or no. Patrick Murray, aye or no.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Matt Mannix, aye.
Jill Lawler, aye.
Richard Lima, aye.
Motion approved 5-0.